Hi, everybody. If you are new, I'm Desmond Fambrini, also known as Desi. I'm a learning specialist. Uh, I'm an MS in special education. I own this education firm that I work at, and I do social media. Who doesn't love hearing themselves talk? We're going to be talking about some educational topics today, and I think that we're due for some educational videos. So I think today is going to be the day where we're going to kind of go deep into some of the kind of most important educational kind of topics that are going to be pretty foundational if you want to like impress your friends, but you don't want to impress your teachers. Because I don't think you're going to get quizzed on these topics. But they're pretty interesting and important for you to understand. So the first thing is the idea of brains growing. So this idea of that I like, oh, well, like if you go like this, you lose 10 brain cells and you never get your brain cells back ever, ever, ever. That's actually 1,000% not true. And we realized that wasn't true a couple decades ago. In fact, you get about 700 new neurons every single day. And mostly you get these new neurons specifically when you would think learning, right? It's when you're asleep. You usually kind of grow these new neurons when you are asleep and you get these 700 neurons a day. And then every time you kind of use these new neurons in a different type of way, we have a phrase that means basically the more you do something and the more you think about something, the easier it gets. In other words, neurons that fire together, wire together. In other words, it's basically easier to think a certain way or do a certain action if you do it over and over and over again. Those neurons that fire in that sequence get so accustomed to firing together that it becomes a habit, easier to do, right? And this, of course, gets us into the actual topic, which is the idea of neuroplasticity. People that are depressed can actually become much more happy, not just through things like SSRI interventions in psychiatry, things like, for example, just learning to reframe. If you are always in a bad mood and then you start making a habit of every time I'm in a bad mood, I'm actually going to reframe this and think about what can be positive about this situation, it can start getting a lot better. Right? So it's a very, very interesting kind of situation. So when you actually do learn something new, whether it be a new skill, a new way of thinking, a new type of emotion, your dopamine levels do actually spike. And this is a built-in reward system that actually works for you, granted that you don't have ADHD like me. If you do have ADHD, unfortunately, this built-in reward system is very, very finicky, we'll call it. But for most people, you do have a built-in reward system that allows you to kind of not only rewire your brain and think a different way and be able to acquire new skills, but you get almost like a little bit of a level up bonus points from doing that natural feel-good dopamine spike. And it recognizes itself, actually, very much so, when it is not doing its job properly. That's the other thing about kind of brains and neuroplasticity and its superpowers, is that not only can it kind of rewire in a certain way, not only can it regrow, but also when it is not working properly, when you get something like a concussion, it actually can recognize it after an injury, right? And here's the interesting thing is that your brain can recognize that when it is injured, and that actually shows one of the highest levels of human intelligence. So these are a couple fun facts that you may want to know about neuroscience when it comes to neuroplasticity, neuroscience, and education. Thought it would be kind of fun for you to know if you ever want to impress your friends or teachers and prove to them that you know more about learning than they do. Okay, hope you have a good rest of the day. And of course, I hope this helps. Bye, everyone.